Have you ever wondered how Ecuador, a country known for its rich culture and biodiversity, has become a battlefield for gangs and authorities? Imagine this: a prison guard becomes a mafia boss. Sounds like a plot for a Hollywood movie, right? Well, this isn't fiction, this is the real-life story of El Negro Willie, a key figure in the rise of gangs in Ecuador. Willie, who went from enforcing the law to breaking it, led the notorious Tiguerones gang in a series of coordinated criminal assaults in January 2024. Despite his arrest later that year, his influence continues to inspire others to follow in his footsteps. But El Negro Willie is just one part of the puzzle. The emergence of gangs in Ecuador is deeply rooted in systemic issues. Poverty, corruption, and a failing prison system have all played significant roles. Let's take a step back and look at the neighborhoods of Ecuador. Areas like Cooperativa Independencia II and Sociovivienda have seen a surge in criminal activity. Why? Because they provide a breeding ground for gangs. These impoverished neighborhoods are filled with youth who see crime as their only way out, their only chance at survival. Now, let's shift our focus to the prisons. They're supposed to be institutions of reform, right? Well, not quite in Ecuador. In fact, the prison system has become a hotbed for organized crime. Under the guise of a promised progressive prison system, corruption and organized crime have thrived. The irony is hard to miss. From a former prison guard turned mafia boss to impoverished neighborhoods becoming criminal hotspots, the rise of gangs in Ecuador has been a complex and alarming issue. As we delve further into this topic, we'll explore how this volatile mix of poverty, corruption, and failed institutions has created a perfect storm, leading to Ecuador's descent into chaos. But how did we get from the rise of gangs to a state of nationwide chaos? Imagine a country where violence is no longer contained within the walls of criminal underworld, but spills over into the streets, into the lives of everyday people. This is a reality for Ecuador, where the escalation of violence has reached unprecedented levels. Political assassinations have become a chilling norm, and the murder rate has skyrocketed, painting a grim picture of a nation in turmoil. It's no longer just about the coastal cities where drug trafficking and gang violence have long been rampant. The violence has spread like a wildfire, reaching even the heart of the country, the capital. The rise in violence is not a random occurrence, but is inextricably linked to the drug trafficking industry. Ecuador's ports have become crucial lifelines for drug traffickers, serving as the gateways for cocaine smuggling. The control over these ports has become a bloody battleground, with the murder of presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio possibly tied to his proposal for military control over these very ports. But it's not just about the ports or the drug trade. The rise in violence is also a symptom of a deeper malaise. Economic challenges have created a breeding ground for crime, with joblessness exacerbating gang recruitment and violence. The desperate and the disenfranchised are drawn into the criminal underworld, further fueling the cycle of violence. The descent into chaos is not solely marked by the rise in violence, but also by the dangerous intertwining of politics and criminal activity. Politics, which should serve as the backbone of a society, has instead become a pawn in the hands of criminal gangs. The very fabric of the Ecuadorian society is being torn apart, not just by bullets and bloodshed, but by the erosion of trust and security. So, as we navigate through this narrative of a nation in chaos, we must ask ourselves, how did a country with such promise descend into this abyss? And more importantly, can it find its way back? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the rebellion of the drug cartels and the struggle of the government to regain control. The descent into chaos is not only marked by the rise in violence, but also by the intertwining of politics and criminal activity. So, what sparked the rebellion of drug cartels against the Ecuadorian government? Well, it all boils down to a power struggle, control, and greed. The Ecuadorian government and the cartels have long been in a tug-of-war over the control of ports. These ports are not just gateways for legal trade, but they are also vital lifelines for the drug cartels. They serve as the arteries for cocaine smuggling, making them a high-stakes battleground. The tension reached a boiling point when a presidential candidate, Fernando Villavicencio, proposed military control over the ports. This was a direct threat to the cartel's operations. Some believe that his subsequent assassination was a chilling message from the cartels to the government: stay out of our business. But the cartels didn't stop at sending messages. They took their rebellion to the streets, causing chaos and destruction. Imagine waking up one day to find your city transformed into a war zone. Bridges, once symbols of connection and progress, were reduced to rubble. Cars, once just vehicles, were set ablaze, their fiery remains a stark reminder of the cartel's defiance. Gunfire echoed in the streets as armed clashes broke out between the cartels and the government forces. The violence was not contained to just the city, it spread to the prisons, where riots erupted, further destabilizing the country. In response, the government declared martial law. Armored personnel carriers rolled through the streets, their presence a grim testament to the severity of the situation. But even with the military involved, the chaos persisted. The cartels continued their rebellion, showing no signs of backing down. The rebellion of drug cartels has brought the nation to the brink of collapse, with martial law and chaos reigning in the streets. In the face of such overwhelming chaos, what is the current situation in Ecuador? Ecuador is currently caught in a storm of violence and crime, a tempest fueled by the rise of powerful mafia gangs and a seemingly powerless government. The streets, particularly in impoverished neighborhoods, are battlegrounds where rival gangs clash, and innocent civilians are caught in the crossfire. The situation is so dire that Ecuador is often referred to as a narco-state, with drug trafficking and organized crime woven into the fabric of its society. The government's response has been a mix of crackdowns and attempts at reform, but their efforts are often undermined by corruption and a lack of resources. As a result, the violence continues unabated, and the country's prisons, once touted as the beacon of progressive reform, have become breeding grounds for criminal activity. This chaos has also spilled over into the political realm. With the upcoming runoff election, political assassinations have surged, and the security crisis poses a serious threat to the democratic process. The candidates, Luisa Gonzalez and Daniel Noboa, are facing an uphill battle, not just against each other, but against the very fabric of their society. It's a race against time, as they must address the immediate security concerns, while also tackling the root causes of this crisis. The violence and instability have had profound effects on everyday life for Ecuadorians. Fear and uncertainty are constant companions, and the economic challenges brought on by joblessness only exacerbate the situation. The impact on the country's youth is particularly alarming. Lured by the promise of easy money and power, many are drawn into a life of crime, perpetuating a cycle of violence that seems to have no end. The current situation in Ecuador paints a grim picture, but it's crucial to understand the context to grasp the enormity of the crisis. With all this in mind, what does the future hold for Ecuador? The future of this South American nation is a question mark, inked by the tumultuous present. A nation, once known for its biodiversity and rich culture, is now under the shadow of violence and chaos, a battleground for power between the government and criminal gangs. Upcoming elections could be a turning point, a chance for change. Candidates Luisa Gonzalez and Daniel Noboa, both vying for the presidency, need to present a robust strategy to restore peace and stability. The stakes are high, as the victor will be tasked with the Herculean effort of reclaiming the country from the grip of organized crime. Yet, the influence of these criminal syndicates extends far and wide, their roots deep in the fabric of society. The story of El Negro Willie is a stark reminder of how these figures can rise to power, drawing in the youth and continuing the cycle of crime and violence. The government's strategy to combat this escalating crisis will need to be multifaceted. It's not just about law enforcement, but also social reform, addressing poverty and joblessness, improving education and social services. These are key factors in breaking the cycle of crime. Yet, the question remains, does the government have the resources and the resolve to regain control? The challenge is mammoth. The state's coffers are not infinite, and the task requires not just financial resources but also political will, strategic planning, and a unified vision. The future of Ecuador is not just about winning a war against crime, it's about rebuilding a nation. It's about giving the youth of Ecuador a chance to dream of a future that isn't marred by violence, a future where they can thrive and contribute to the growth of their country. The future of Ecuador hangs in the balance, caught between the power of criminal gangs and the struggle for governmental control.